Well, this is time is passing on, and guess what? We have just a couple days before we celebrate the 4th of July. Wow! Can you? Well, I always say that. Yes, we can believe it because time stands still for no one. Well, good morning, beautiful ones. I want you to know that I don't know why it got in my mind to say this, but I see each and every one of you. I mean, I really see you. People feel today that they're not being seen, that they're not being acknowledged. And I want you to know I see you and I appreciate you. And I love you for coming out and just being here with me. It's a joy to have faces to look out at. And you know what? I take nothing for granted anymore. Nothing for granted. You know, I used to just walk in these doors and automatically feel there's going to be people. But I found out, 3 months ago, that doesn't always happen. So I just wanted to take a moment this morning and just really let you know. I hope you feel my heart because I really appreciate your being here with me, listening and learning this truth. You know, I learn too. As I prepare, as I give you these lessons, Spirit is constantly speaking and working with me. And I love that because sometimes I get up here and I open up. I mean, things open up that I hadn't even thought about. And I appreciate Spirit for moving through me as it does. So, what a time to talk about freedom, huh? I thought about this long and hard, and I said, you know what? All this commotion out here, that's just the chaos that makes up the world. But it's what's in here, in your hearts, in your minds, in your souls, that make the difference. So if you're living out here and not in here, then we need to talk after service. Saturday is the 4th of July, and if you're like me, I like to sit down and do some deep thinking, especially around the holidays, because that's fertile ground. Holidays are always fertile ground because the collective thought is usually directed in one direction. So we're thinking about freedom. I'm kind of excited to see how the topic is handled on television this year. I'm kind of excited to see how it unfolds because you know our universe is changing. We're changing. Our cities and our things are evolving. And for those of us here, we're seeing more and more people joining in the collective thought of the one presence. Sure, there's still some out there that don't believe that believes that something outside is directing, like a conductor directing music, that there's something up there that's directing how everybody is going to act and move and say and do. But we know that's not the truth. When I looked up freedom, first I looked up free because the dictionary definition for free is not under control or in the power of another. That's a big definition, isn't it? And so freedom was defined as the power or right to act, speak, think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. So for me, the goal is freedom, but not as the world sees freedom. Because we know that as we watch and listen, they're talking about wars being overcome and people being under the control of something to be free. We know that's not the truth about freedom. Jesus Christ said that it's not as the world gives. And I want that kind of freedom that comes with knowing that I'm not only a human being, that I'm also a spiritual being. And it is a possibility to live from my Christ self. You know, we think that's a possibility. Oh, you can't. You can still do things living from your Christ self. Did you know that? You can still move about the universe, making choices for this human body. It does not restrain you, and that's what the definition of freedom that I'm holding on to. Because that's the only way to be free, is to know who and what you are, not only in your human nature, but your spiritual nature, which for me is even greater importance than this human body, because this human body may transist. Some people call it death, but I call it transist. This human body may transist, but it can still be free in that transition. It's just going through another door, taking on another assignment, whatever that may be. If it's singing in a choir in the ethers, then okay. Or if it's picking up another experience such as I'm in right now and moving forth in the other experience. That's freedom. When you get in your mind that there's more to it than just right now, that's freedom. Freedom to be. I don't know, Spirit has a sense of humor. I just got a visual. Freedom to move around the cabinet or the plane. Freedom to move around this earth plane. So, I am not imprisoned by what the world is involved in right now. You too? Right. We're not making choices out of fear, right? Because that's how we know we're not in prison. We're making choices because we choose to wear a mask. We choose to not go into a big crowd of people. Because this is what deep in our soul we want to do. And vice versa. Whatever you choose. I'm choosing from the freedom within. I'm sitting down and I'm thinking about it. Is this coming from a place of fear? Or is it coming from a place of just feeling like this is really what I want to do right now in this moment with all the things that I'm dealing with in my mind about what is going on? That's the test. That's the test. You know, to many people, freedom means having billions of dollars, which would be nice, but that's not being free, because what happens if you have billions of dollars? You're worried about your billions of dollars. You're worried about how to safeguard it, how to keep it from other people, how to hold on to it. That's not true freedom. It's all right to have billions of dollars. It's totally all right to have it. But what is the mindset in having that? Is it keeping you in captivity? If it is, then you better give it away. I'll take it. You know, as a country, what do? We spend billions of dollars on guns and military personnel. And does that make us free? Have we been free in the outer in that respect yet? Have we been free from threats from other countries? See, that's what I mean by we have to come out of, as the world thinks of freedom, and turn within to the true freedom. The true freedom is being lifted up and freeing your soul from thoughts of captivity, from thoughts of being held back. I love these words. John 8:31 and 32, it says, well, Jesus said to those who believe in him, if you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. Now, what's the word? Have we followed the teachings of Jesus? Have we really listened and watched and got the deep meaning of what he did and said? He moved among the people freely, not in fear. He loved freely, not in fear. He went among those that people said, don't go over around those Samaritans. And he went around them anyway. Because he knew that there's no separation by anything. There is only one. One power, one presence. I've been hammering that into not only you, but every time I say it, it goes deeper into myself. One presence, one power. And you know what? That's my freeing power. Knowing that there's one presence and one power. And holding on to that thought no matter what anyone else wants to tell me. You know, people will come up to you and challenge you. How can you believe there's one power and one presence and it's all good when there's so much out here in the world? You have to get and take a stand on whether or not you're going to stand on truth with a capital T, which means that which is of God, or are you going to stand on what the world is telling you is the truth? We know the world tells us that little t. Capital T is the absolute truth. It's unadulterated. It doesn't change. It's not controlled by any person. And that's what frees us when we get into the awareness. One presence, one power, one truth in the universe. And then stand on that no matter what's going on. You see, my philosophy is a lot of times we deal with what the senses tell us. So far I have, up until I began to study these workings of Charles Fillmore, the co-founder, I lived my life by what was out here. I didn't take into consideration that in me there's something that never dies. In me there's something that withstands anything that life can throw at me. If I can just take that breath and relax in spirit. Now I know you're saying, well, how can you do that when there's turmoil? Take that deep breath and just turn your thoughts to there is a divine energy moving in and throughout the universe and in me, It doesn't bypass me, it's in me. I don't let my mind go anywhere else. If it travels down a path that's not the absolute truth, I reel it back in and I affirm to it over and over again until it marches to the beat of the right drummer. I affirm to it over and over again. You are a spiritual being. What happens out here, don't give it any power over you. I have a choice in life. Now I can live a life that might be considered misery because I'm constantly on guard. I'm constantly tense. I'm constantly in fear. I don't want to do anything because I'm afraid to take a step. But if I acknowledge one presence, one power, that sheds a whole new light on things. I know in me, through the Christ in me, that's my staying power. I know that it is said that this body is a temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells in me. That's my staying, freeing power. You know, not everyone is coming to the awareness of the greatness in them. Not everyone knows and understands the absolute truth. We know that no one can take advantage of us or our good when we hold to that truth that is within us. No one can take us into captivity. No one can make us fearful when we stand in the truth of our being. Most of us in this room, we're believers, we're deep thinkers, we're going deep. We come in here curious, our minds are pulling us in here. We go to, there are a lot of good messages on YouTube and on various other things. We go to those things, we absorb them. We get with groups that are thinking like we want to get in our minds to think. I love this time because I was talking with some friends on Zoom the other day. I love that one thing this pandemic has brought out is that there are a lot of groups that you can join now. I mean, they could be groups that are in Europe with like minds, and you can connect with them and you can get your feet planted firmly. There's prayer groups all over the city holding to the truth. I know and believe prayer works. I think it moves through our cities and it's moving through them now. You know, we spend a lot of time not knowing we have power in us to move mountains. Mm-hmm. And that power and that presence never goes away. I want to give you, I know I've given you these before, but I just want to give you some thoughts on Unity's 4 basic denials, because it can lead us to our goal, which is freedom. Don't you want to be free no matter what's going on? Don't you want to feel that burst of freedom? Even if you're sitting in your house and you're just sitting in your house, don't you want to feel that burst of freedom within? Well, here are a few things that I know I've shared them with you before, maybe even recently, but they bear talking about again. The Unity's 4 basic denials. One of them is, and I know this one will probably knock you off your feet, but there is no evil. Evil exists not of itself. It's an accumulation of erroneous thoughts being fed out here. And it cannot exist unless someone keeps those thoughts going. So we know not to buy into those thoughts. We know that we're declaring that one presence and one power. The other one is, and I guess when I say this, when I first came into Unity, I would always say, there is no evil in God. Because if you're residing in God, if you're living, moving, having your being in God, there is no evil. And the second one is there's no absence of life, substance, or intelligence anywhere. Life is eternal. We don't really get that because we're in these bodies and we think when we say life is eternal, we're talking about these human bodies. But these bodies are clothing-like. They're not the real of us. Never forget that, first and foremost, you have that divine energy in you, that Christ in you, that spirit, that connection with God that will never pass away. Sure, we love living this human life. But as you begin to get deeper, you know there's something more precious. And that's what's eternal. Now this one is really difficult, especially now. But I had to keep denying this in my mind as we pass through all this experience that we've been going through the past few months. And it's pain, sickness, poverty, old age, and death cannot master me, for they are not real. Now, I just talked about the absence of life, didn't I? About the body. There's something in you that's eternal. It's not going to go away. It's not going to die. You may not be aware of it. People are doing things out here because they're not aware that in them is that energy that stands under everything that is them. So that one may take some sitting with to think about that one. Remember when I said the real, that the real is the absolute? And these things are not the absolute. They may seem like it because we're what? Focused on the body, on the human. But there's more than that to us. And the last one, I want to give you this last one because I really want you to take this in, because this is what will free you. And the last denial is, there is nothing in all the universe for me to fear, for greater is he that is within me than he that is in the world. Oh my gosh, if we just get that, if we get that soaked down deep in us, just think how different you would react to a news story or things. If you could just get that, grab that and just hold on to it. Because there is nothing greater than God. One power, one presence. And you know what? I wouldn't give you anything I don't practice myself. And I truly believe there is one presence, one power, and it's in this universe, and it's everywhere present. It's within me. as divine energy. So, we know as we think about these denials, as we affirm them, as we say them, always follow them up with affirming the truth. And the truth for me is I am a spiritual being. I am connected to the source. I am one, and I am living and moving and having my being in God. What connects me? The Christ within. That eternal, that always, always, always is moving and experiencing and connecting me with my freedom. That's true for me. Is it true for you? Yes. Yes, it is. You know, I'm affirm it and know it for you if you don't know it for yourself. But I believe everyone in this room is aware of that. So let's take a moment and let's connect. Let's let this soak a little deeper in us. Let's take a moment in prayer, and let's begin with the prayer given to us by Jesus Christ. Let's affirm together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. And let's take a deep breath, breathing that in. Breathing that in and knowing that we can make this inward journey. We can make this inward journey and settle in and soak in the freedom of our beings. On July 4th, we celebrate an outer experience, but each and every day we are aware that we are awake, alive, and alert. We celebrate an inner freedom, an inner experience. No matter what the circumstances, no matter what perceived limitations I may feel in my life, as I make this inward journey, I know that these things too shall pass. Every obstacle we encounter, every experience that comes into our environment, I see them as opportunities to learn, to listen. And then I turn to the source within for wisdom and understanding. Breathing in and breathing out, I come to that point deep within where only I can enter and commune with the indwelling Lord of my soul. And I step over into my chamber and immediately feel the power in the presence. Feel the love that is unconditional. Feel the peace that is like no other peace. Breathing in and breathing out. Take a moment and sit in the awareness of the Christ that you are. Take a moment in the peace and tranquility and focus your thoughts on that freedom within, right here, right now, in the quiet. And in the presence of this moment, give thanks for the gifts you have just received. The gifts that strengthen you. The gifts that empower you. The gifts that settle over you, bringing peace and joy. Dear God, we are so grateful that we know all we need do is turn within, and you are there because you are everywhere. You're a living God. You're moving, your breath, your air. And so we soak in this freedom of spirit, knowing the absolute truth of our being. Having experienced that peace, having experienced that one presence and that one power, having experienced that lift that opens up and frees our souls, soaring into the highest of the heights. And so for this, the human experience and the spiritual experience, we say thank you, God, because we know that we are eternal beings and we are grateful. So we give thanks for all these gifts that we have been given. And especially the gift of knowing you and the freedom that comes along in that knowing. So for this and all things, we just say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And it is so, and so it is. Amen. Amen. All right. So how do you feel? Free? Yes.